they are here to be productive, creative, but they don't want to prompt all that stuff. Find which model. Like, which model do you use? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, Kling is great for skin. VO is great for product. So long story short, we believe at the brief that we can have an environment where you can basically create things, integrate all the models, pick the ones that are best for specific use cases, and do this intelligence on top of AI.
Welcome to the Talking AI podcast, where we talk AI with both experts in the field and early adopters. I'm your host, Matt Page, and we're here to demystify AI for you so you can get some value from it. Let's talk some AI. AI has unlocked insane creative power. We got text, images, videos, all generated in seconds, but for most marketers, it still feels disconnected, a bit random, and frankly, overwhelming. And my guest today, Thibault Imbert, Chief Product Officer and Growth Officer at The Brief, wants to unify that. And he's led growth at Adobe and GitHub, so he's seen a lot. And he's had a front row seat to where AI marketing workflows are heading in this new age that we're in. So we're talking about vibe marketing and how to turn what feels like a random act of vibes into a repeatable end-to-end workflow. But welcome to Talking AI, Thibault.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So excited to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be a good conversation. We have not hit the vibe marketing topic yet. We've done a lot of the vibe coding, a lot of the AI tools, a lot of agents and everything, and that comes into play here too. But I'm curious, like, just like vibe marketing, the vibe coding, the term vibe marketing means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. How do you define it? How do you think about this movement that's happening?
Yeah, so as a developer myself, I think I do vibe code, and I think vibe coding is real. And it's just super interesting to see what's happened with code generation. And I think what's going to happen is we're going to see the same disruption that's happened with code generation happen with marketing. Because, when I worked at GitHub on Copilot, when we realized that LLMs can generate, they're basically using text token and they can generate code, that's the first thing that happened. Like, the first disruption and wave of innovation has been code gen, because it's an extension, is just a conversation. Code is text. The next thing going to happen is the models, the video image models are getting close to perfection to generate image. So I would generate anything with AI for, let's say, a person or a product placement. 6 to 9 months ago or a year ago, you would have been like, this is AI slop. This doesn't look good. Now it's getting harder, and in some cases, it's going to look perfect. So I think what's happening is just a question of time. And developers that now at the brief, everyone uses Cursor to write code and supplement their kind of like their brain. The same thing is going to happen with marketing. Now, the thing that's different is that developers, to get support or to generate something, you can have a conversation and you can ask. With marketing, you can do it, but with marketing, when it comes to generating something visual, it's harder to express it with words. When you want a concept to be, when you say, hey, I want you to fix this function, I want you to grab this, call this API, do this, and fix my SSO token, whatever you ask in code, it's pretty simple, it's pretty natural. But when you want to express that you want a kind of like a diffuse background, or you want something of like vector style, or you have to be a professional designer to express that to the LLM. So that's why the first thing that we're seeing is that a lot of marketers say, I don't want to prompt. And not just marketers, a lot of designers that we've talked to at the briefing, customers or prospects, tell us, yeah, of course I prompt, but I don't want to, because I have to, and I do, but can you actually help me not having to prompt? And so I do think that vibe marketing for me is designing things at the speed of thought, designing things so that you can just express something, show something. And I do believe in show rather than tell for designing, because I'm sure it's the same thing you've seen in your life. When you don't know how to design and you want someone to design something, what do? 99% of people will say, I want something like that. I want something that looks like this. You're going to go on Pinterest, you're going to save something, you're going to say, oh, I saw this logo, I took a picture of this shop, I really like it. Can you design a logo for me like this? Very few humans are going to be like, I want something of like Russian 1944 style, like a vector based, whatever type of design you can think of. That's just not how most people want to design, except if you are a professional designer. But even as a professional designer and same thing for marketer, I think the power of vibe marketing is you bring a bunch of images and you say, give me something like that. And it starts generating something. And you say, yeah, but make it more like this. And it's generate. And then you start just like sculpture, creating something, except that in the past you had to know Photoshop.
Quick break in the pod. If you're listening to this podcast, chances are you've been thinking about how to actually use AI inside your business. And that's exactly why we built the AI Opportunity Finder. It's a free tool that helps you uncover high impact, tailored AI use cases based on your business, your goals, your pain points, and your industry. No fluff, no generic use cases, just real ideas that fit your business, and they're ranked by ROI potential. It takes about 3 minutes to run, and it's like having your own personal AI strategist for free. If you want to try it for free, check out the link in the show notes or go to hatchworks.com/AI-opportunity-finder.
And now with vibe marketing,
totally.
you don't need to know Photoshop.
You give me about 10 rabbit holes I want to jump down, but that's a really interesting point there. And I do believe it's like the experts with AI have the most power to do amazing things, but that's such a nuanced point there because I experience this too. Like I want some type of designer thing, but not knowing how to describe it in terms of how the LLM is going to understand, that is a gap. And to your point, if I can just show, hey, like this thing with a mix of this, there's a ton of value in that. I think what's interesting too, I've noticed with marketers, you can do so much more, so much quicker. But while we're on the topic of vibe coding as well, I've even seen some marketers starting to do really cool campaigns with like vibe coded things, in which they never would have been able to do before unless they could have bribed one of their developer friends on the team, and it's like bottom of their backlog. So it's like this new nuanced tool that these teams have to create really unique and compelling experiences on top of just the standard copy, visual, video, ads, all of these different things.
Yes, the lines are blurred. Then the product designers on my team write some code. The designers are able to now get to almost working prototypes that they ask designers to review and integrate. We have salespeople on our team that generate websites for outbound. They generate the website with Lovable and they're like, and they put some ads and I use that as a presentation. And so the lines are blurred. And I think that kind of amazing with AI is that it's just lowering the barrier to entry for humanity to so many things. Lovable created a new category with what they did. And so, it's fascinating.
And back to your point of reference, having that lovable prototype is just, again, something you can reference to. I was looking back the other day, they turned one, I guess, since they officially became lovable. I've created 100 different things. Vibe coded apps. But I have to go back to the point you mentioned earlier. You mentioned GitHub Copilot. And so you were there when that product came out. And I believe you were leading or in some form on the growth side. What was that like? Seeing this totally new thing emerge. And just marketing this totally new way of working. What any like unique experiences from that time?
And I'll tell you, I got to be honest. Like, yes, I was working on the marketing and growth side, but that piece of genius. Because if you listen to Cursor and the founder, that's when they saw what was possible with Copilot. That they were like, oh, we got to create something because But back then, in the team that started that, it started really as a very kind of like skunkworks project that few people knew in the company. And then, to be honest with you, at the beginning, I thought that was really cool. But I won't speak for the product team because they had the vision to build that too. And that's when Nat Friedman was the CEO working with Microsoft. Satya had made that investment. There was just a lot of foresight in that decision. And the team worked on it for, if I'm not mistaken, like probably 1 or 2 years in their garage. I've been in many companies. It's so hard to stay focused. Like being able to just say, we're going to do this and we're going to work on it for 1.5 years, 2 years, and then it's going to be awesome. And they did that. It changed the industry. And I'll be honest, I thought that was awesome, but I didn't anticipate that it would change an entire industry. Like now, like
Yeah.
Copilot code generation is almost like, yeah, of course. So we started, it was you write some comments and it generates the line of code or a few lines. And now
Yeah.
it basically reviews your code, works in the terminal. It's crazy.
We've seen the same evolution on the marketing side too. Because it used to be, okay, write this ad copy for me. And it's very one-to-one interaction with ChatGPT. But to your point, it's completely evolving. You have videos that just are indistinguishable from reality.
Right.
But to your point though, it still feels random. And I think the point you mentioned earlier was going from just having a single prompt box. And then the other thing too, I experienced this working with this tool and that tool. And okay, I'm going to take, what I've got from ChatGPT over into VO3 or whatnot.
Yeah.
And then, okay, I want to create I like the style of the image in
Yeah.
Mid-Journey. So I'm going to do that and then feed
Yeah.
this over here. And I think this is what y'all are building in a sense at the brief is something more cohesive. So where do you see that evolving? And that could be what you have today at the brief or even into the future in terms of these like workflows and processes that are starting to be established.
So, and I can show you in a second a quick demo, but you're absolutely right. If you watch any video from on YouTube on kind of AI marketers, where they show you how to use things, these folks have 5 tabs open or 6 or 7, 10 accounts on File.ai and Free Pick and whatever and Figma. And then they jump between, they're like, okay, so I'm going to go and create a prompt. So let's upload that picture in ChatGPT and let's generate a prompt. Let's copy that. Now we're going to put that in that spreadsheet. Now I'm going to go to File.ai. We're going to generate a video. We're going to try 6 times. And you're like, if you are a nerd, you enjoy the craft of that, like a developer. But marketers, they are here to be productive, creative, but they don't want to prompt all that stuff. Find which model. Like, which model do you use? Oh, yeah. Oh, Kling is great for skin. VO is great for product. So long story short, we believe at the brief that we can have an environment where you can basically create things, integrate all the models, pick the ones that are best for specific use cases, and do this intelligence on top of AI, where if all you're doing as a product is exposing a model in a prompt window, then Gemini can do that. You're not adding value. But what we do at the brief is and I'm going to share my screen. Can you see this?
Yes, we can.
All right. We have this, for instance, this canvas that's multiplayer, where you can share that with your team. You can generate things here with this prompt, and you can basically do vibe marketing. So I can select that element, select some text.
And for those that are like just listening right now, like we're looking at this, I would equate it to like a Miro style, to your point, canvas. And we have these different images and prompt boxes and things like that. And now you're generating something off of this prompt in relation to one of the images. So describe it for those that are audio only as well.
Absolutely. I can select anything on that infinite canvas. I can generate things. And as it's generating, I can show you what it's built. So here I have, for instance, I just asked to put these piece of clothes on these models. And I did that look at the quality. I mean, if we were to describe this for the people that are listening, don't have that. It's like, it looks like a professional photo shooting that happened in a few seconds. I can change anything. I can say, change the position of the body, make it have her, wear some sunglasses. If I want to resize, which is the plague of any designer, hey, can you resize? It's not crop. We can just do that. So you can just resize. But then if you want to introduce new elements such as ingredients, I want to add a little doggy. I can just select that dog and say, add a dog to the scene.
That's cool.
And then you have that. And now the thing that we've built on top of this is what we think is really valuable is that if you want to turn this into a video, well, here's how you need to do it today. You're going to need to generate a prompt. So most people, and I don't think prompt is the end of the road, people will struggle to even, what is the prompt I'll use to create a video? People have no clue. So let's imagine, so you need to
Yeah.
go to ChatGPT and do that. You can just click here, remix. You can say image to video, and we will analyze your image, understand that it's December, understand that this is a photo shooting, and we will propose some effects so that you don't need to prompt. You'll just click on the effect. I'm going to say gentle, like let's say motion, sway, or floating, and I will generate that video, and that's it.
Yeah,
And so
because the video prompts are very nuanced, right?
they're very nuanced. They're
there's
very
an
nuanced.
approach to how you prompt it, right?
Exactly. And the models, what we've seen is that they work better. The technology is not perfect yet. So if you go with a movement that's extremely strong, you're going to see hallucination. But what we do is we actually specifically ask for things that are more subtle so that it's more likely to succeed and look natural and be something that you would want to use for such a campaign. And if you wanted to generate more variation, instead of coming here, putting a prompt that says, hey, add some plants in the back or whatever and enhance your prompt, you can just click on the image, generate variation, say very subtle or strong, and then it will generate variations automatically. Right?
And that's the cool thing too, because I feel like what's neat about this is like you can almost use AI as another creative partner. Because I think a lot of people, they're in this mode of, okay, I have to tell AI exactly, I got to dictate exactly what I need to do. But sometimes you can almost let it go down its own randomness, which will then like bring up another idea in your head, which will be like, oh, that I hadn't thought of that as like a campaign or a concept. I think that's an under just utilized way of leveraging AI, and it's elevating it to this like status of a thought partner in a sense.
Exactly. And so just one last example, like this is an example with one of our
Oh, I
customers.
love these.
Yeah.
Are these chocolate Santas?
Yeah, chocolate Santas. Who doesn't like chocolate? We're so proud to have Lint as a customer.
Yes.
And they use AI and
Wow,
look
that's awesome.
look at the quality of this ad, the scene. It's just insane. Text is now possible with image models. And you want to generate 20 variations of that. You can just click generate variation and it's done. And it took me 10 seconds to generate these. And so that is vibe marketing. That's the power of really integrating that technology into a tool that understands the marketer's workflow.
It is a big point there too on the lens side is a lot of the stuff you see out there on YouTube and whatnot, it's very cool. But if you're talking about a real brand like that,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
consistency of their product in the ad
Yes.
is a non-starter if it's not consistent. And what
Yeah.
you just showed, like it was like the exact same chocolate Santa, right? So there's no variation
There's
there
no,
when you don't want variation, which is critical
yeah.
for large brands.
No, I wanted to say there's a lot of cool demos with AI that are acceptable when you're an SMB and you don't have the same reach and brand,
Yeah.
but for a Lint or a AstraZeneca or some other like customers we have, they need precise fidelity. They say, no, the logo has to be
Mm.
eight pixel to the left here. This is the font that we use. So the image models are not there yet to be able to create something with the exact font, the exact placement. Maybe we'll get there. In the meantime, having this editor that we have where on the canvas, you can also
Yeah.
open an editor, put your brand kit, put your logo, things, so that you can have access to that control is very important. Just like in Cursor, you can decide to go agentic and have it generate stuff at any time. You can say, hold on, and you're going to start coding manually for 2 hours.
Yeah, totally. I'm sure you've heard of this example recently, or maybe you haven't, but Coca-Cola, they put out an ad recently. It was a video ad, and they talked about needing 70,000 prompts going into it.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were using this as like validation that, oh, it's not there yet. The models aren't there yet. The quality, it's still AI slop and all that. And in my mind, and I'm sure you see them too, like the creators that have really learn this craft,
Yes.
they're doing insanely amazing things with
Yeah.
much less in terms of prompts. I don't know what model they were using. That may have been a limiting factor as well.
Yes.
But curious your thoughts on that, because I think it's a gap in the approach you take, and then obviously the model under the hood that you're leveraging for the specific use case.
Yeah. So let's be real. The video models, for instance, right? So VO 3.1 was a huge improvement, but back in the first version of VO and even VO 3, you had a failure rate that was, I can't remember, but basically it would take you still like a few times, a few like attempts to get the result that you want. So there's enough
Yeah.
like an error rate that used to be higher. Now it's getting better and better. So there's that. The second thing is prompting and which tools. It takes a lot of work. What's interesting, and I'm curious your thoughts. Thinking of an analogy. I do think what this reminds me is I remember when I started back in 2006 to 8 when the iPhone launched, there was a surge. Basically, the developers, the iPhone developers were the king of the world. If you knew Objective C at that time, when mobile became a thing, when people realized that they could have actually the web on their pocket, in their pocket. I don't know if you remember, but like mobile developers, mobile app, like it was huge. And if you had that skill,
Yeah.
you had a huge advantage. And then later, Objective C was replaced by Swift. But the people that learned that stuff back then had a huge advantage. And you can see a lot of these people that started and became sometimes founders or started companies, or like they had some level of insight. They just knew how to create application and businesses on where people are going to be spending most of their time today. And I think the same thing is happening right now. If you know what the models, how they work, even if you use a lot of manual things, people will want tools that help them do things faster. But that way of thinking, of how you construct things, how you use the models together, how you use agents to supercharge your productivity, I do think the people that have learned that right now are going to have a huge edge in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think I always go back to the Shopify CEO's leaked memo that he just put out there. And he says, generative AI is just too unlike anything else. And the best way to get good at it is simply by using it a lot.
Yeah.
It is those people that are experimenting using it a lot because they understand the nuance of working with the thing. And they're also the best people positioned to create these products and experiences to make things easier, but also adapt things as it evolves. I completely agree with you. And I think another interesting thing, I see this on my team, where, especially in the marketing realm, people had very specific skill sets. This is my copywriter, this is my designer, this is my videographer, whatever it is. But I'm seeing this blending of skill sets to where there's a lot of overlap, but it's in a good way, because now my designer can like propose copy related to something, and my copywriter can propose image idea. There's this overlap that creates this new interaction experience between them. And they just move a lot faster, but they're able to, I think, communicate what they're thinking in a more nuanced fashion.
100%.
Curious, like, if you've seen that.
Yeah. You remind me of at Adobe, the co-founders, Warnock and Geschke. They had this quote in the SF office where they say, good ideas come from everywhere. And it's awesome. It's a really beautiful principle because it is inclusive of people contributing. And like you said, historically, what prevented a copywriter to design something wasn't their creativity. It was just the fact that they didn't know the shortcuts in Photoshop or Figma. And so we prevented like a lot of people that constitute humanity to contribute to conversation.
Totally.
Because they didn't have the skills. And so I think that's the thing that's the most awesome with AI. You have this dentist that's using Replit to create apps for, I can't remember the story, but I thought that's just awesome. Lovable has created a new category with like people like, I can do this. And same thing in marketing teams. The copywriter might have some really cool ideas, but they were never able to express them. And now they can.
Yeah, totally. And like, I'm curious. One thing I think that's really unique and interesting about your product is you have one of those products that gets better as the models get better, which I think is a huge indicator. If your product gets
Yeah,
completely overtaken once the models get good, you're in a bad position.
right.
But yours is uniquely suited. Nano Banana Pro coming out, VO 3.1, we have Sword
Yeah.
2, and the competition's just fierce. So just they keep getting markedly better. Where do you think we're gonna be in like say a year from now? Because I feel like each new iteration is just very impressive. Where do you see the biggest gaps that we're gonna see solved in the next near term future?
I think I think on the let's start with so first, yeah, it's enough like amazing to build and fly the plane as you're replacing NG every 2 months. And so it's kind of amazing. And there was this interview from the CEO from what was the name of this company? They were competitor to Cursor. They got acquired by the Devon. What was the name of
Windsurf?
Windsurf? Thank you. The CEO of Windsurf was
Yeah.
interviewed by Y Combinator, and he said something like, "You have to be comfortable building a product that's 90%, 80% done, and 20% is still not
Yeah.
working because the models are not there." So it's
Yeah.
super interesting into implications for product development on where it's going. I think for image models, the thing that is still not perfect, but Nano Banana Pro got very close. And I think right now, Nano Banana Pro, from a marketing standpoint, I think overall is the best model, is text.
Mhm.
So text rendering,
Yeah.
for instance, for lint, very important. You cannot have the chocolate with not the right lint logo on the chocolate. They
Hmm.
even have lint engraved in the chocolate chunk, the pieces. Nano Banana Pro is
Oh,
able to
wow.
do that
Yeah.
today.
That's impressive.
So I think the next version of Nano Banana Pro, I think will probably crack that and be perfect with text in all scenarios. I think they're getting really close. So I do think in 6 months, a year, text packaging and all that cracked, it's working. It's going to be incredible for ecom and retail and these companies to integrate these models and products like ours in their workflow. For video models, I think the thing that's not solved yet, but it's getting closer and closer with VO31, Kling also really a new model recently, it's going to be character consistency. I think in 6 months, most models will be there. What does that mean for some of the listeners that maybe didn't go through that pain? When you're generating 3, 4, 5 videos, because you want to generate something long form, today the limitation is 10 seconds, 8 seconds, but you cannot tell an AI video model to generate a clip of 5 minutes. So you need, and who does
Yeah.
that? You need to think like a producer. You need to generate sequences and stitch them together.
Yeah.
When you do that, it takes too much work still to create consistency across the chapters. And now it's getting better and better. So I do think we're going to be there. And in the brief, we're going to be integrating a feature called Storyboard, where you'll be able, from this canvas I showed, to actually create your scenes, consistency across the chapters, generate a full video. And we've generated internally full blown commercials with logos, text overlay, 100% with AI, with for the rest, 1 2 minute video clips. And you look at them and you're like, oh my God, if I were to show this to anyone in my family, they wouldn't notice it's actually all AI.
Yeah, no, that's why I think you hit on it too. Like the shortness of what you can produce isn't actually the limiter; it is the consistency. Because you look at any standard commercial or thing like that, like it does progress and the scenes change and things like that. But if it's not consistent, then it's a
Exactly.
non-starter. Let me ask you. I got a few questions to wrap us up. Now, think of it maybe a bit of a rapid fire. But say I'm a VP of marketing listening. What's the first pilot you're running in the next 30 days? Say this is not part of their suite of things they're doing today in terms of AI generated imagery, video, campaigns, things like that. Where do they start?
It's a good question. Like, how do they learn, or which workflow should they enable with AI?
Yeah, more on the workflow side. What's a good logical
Yeah,
starting point for them if
I
they're
think
experimenting into this?
it depends on where you, depending on like your business. But I would say if I was like a VP of marketing at any company and I'm doing demand gen and all that in SEO, I would totally be automating the creation of the landing pages, all the SEO landing pages, and all of these things through Lovable or Cursor, whatever engine you want to use. so that it would basically generate all the copy, all the things that I need. Of course, there would be a human in the loop to review, but I would completely automate all of the generation of my landing pages with SEO for SEO. I would probably also automate a lot of my outbound and a lot of the things that you would do manually today with an SDR and things like that. I would just automate all of that stuff with AI. If I'm in a VP of marketing in ecom, I would definitely be looking at using product photography to completely, revolutionize the cost of operations, my photo shooting. If you think about any company that's doing photo shoots, it's immense, the amount of the cost, flying people, budget, time,
Yeah.
A/B testing. This is such an amazing opportunity. So I would look at, okay, how do we start using AI on our website, on our ads for product listing, for commercials? You've seen even brands, though it backfired because it was early. I think it was Guess that started doing an AI ad in Vogue or a magazine where they had basically a model, and people were like, "Ooh, that's bad." But you also see Mango recently putting for clothing their models generated with AI, and they actually add a little image that generated with AI. I'm one of the believer that I don't think people necessarily care if it's AI or not. If the the product looks good and the proportions are correct and all that, who cares? So I think that for ecom, clothing, yeah, product photography and all that, it's just a revolution that's happening. So some ideas, if I were doing marketing in these companies, these are the types of things I'd probably would be on my radar.
Yeah, what's the saying? Go all presses get pressed or something to that effect. But I think there's two groups, right? There's the group of those using professional photo shoots today and those that just aren't because they don't have the budget.
Right.
And both can now leverage this in a meaningful way. So let me ask you this. In 2 years, what will marketers spend 50% less time doing and what will they spend more time doing? And change it to 6 months, 1 year, whatever. But where does the differentiated value of the marketer still stay with the
Yeah.
marketer
Yeah.
versus they're just outsourcing to AI in a sense?
It's a great question. I remember I interviewed someone when I was at Pixart, and we started working on AI as well, and it's like automation and all that. And he was leading a large team for the marketing creative team. And he started the meeting, and we were doing a discovery call on researching kind of pain points about AI and what AI could do. And he said, I'll always remember, can you automate all the stuff that I hate doing? And he was
Yeah.
saying, as a marketer, I'm extrapolating, but what I read from that comment and what we discussed in the meeting, he was like, I want my team to spend time on the creative ideas. And he explained to me, like, in my team and most marketing teams, 80%, 70% is recycling, creating variations of an existing campaign that performs well. And then it
Yeah.
plateaued, the diminishing return, and you need to break that ceiling with a new concept. I do think, to answer your question, in a few years, and already now it's happening, people are starting to move to the robots, give to the robots what humans don't want to do. And what do humans don't like doing? They don't like doing the same thing over and over. That's not creative. No single person that I've talked to as a creative person said, "Oh, what I love doing, Thibault, is resizing banners. I just love that. Like creating all the 16 version of my banners for TikTok and Instagram, and then oh yeah, I love generating captions. That's so awesome." No, localization a lot. So I do think the beautiful thing with AI is that it's going to recalibrate, move this time that was sucked by the manual, like the boring monkey work. It's going to give that to the robots, resize, localize, create a different background. And then where the human is going to shine and play is tuning, telling the AI to go in a specific direction, because creativity will still be human. These models are not creative. They're amazing operationalizer and executioner, but they're not creative. They just
Yeah.
reproduce what they've seen.
Yeah.
So I think I dream of that, of like basically, yeah, in a few years, people will say, oh yeah, all of that stuff, it's now automated. And most of my team's time is really focused on the things that AI still can do, is the true proper creativity.
Yeah. And I think too, like the models and the output feels very creative, but I feel like it's a reflection of the person using and working with AI
Yeah.
in a sense, right? Because that's a huge piece of it. So it's almost amplifying. It's based on the user using it in a sense
Yeah.
to a certain degree. And last question for you. So you've done growth at Adobe, GitHub, these amazing companies, but what's one belief you had that AI has forced you to change? The evolution, the introduction of generative AI in a sense.
Wow. So you're saying one thing that I was surprised by, or something that I didn't anticipate with that, or something
Yeah,
more.
just maybe a traditional, yeah, a thought that you had, maybe a principle you had in your mind
Right.
that maybe felt first principle in a sense. And it could be growth, marketing, either side of it, that
I
AI has evolved your thinking in a
I
sense.
as a developer myself, that turned designer, and I'm able to design things in Figma or Photoshop or in code. I used to believe that most people like the craft and the process of creating.
Yeah.
But the reality is that today people want to get things done. And so I realized that, and I remember at Pixar, my CEO would tell me, and he was right. He would say, "You're too professional. You think that people love to be able to get into the detail, make sure everything is aligned and all that." Yes, that's true. But basically, what I'm trying to say is that if you give something that is extremely efficient, fast, and gives good quality, people don't really want to spend the time doing these things. They want to use that time somewhere
Yeah.
else, except if you are an artist. And so it's like developers will always want to write code in a certain way, but if you give them, like, most of the code has been written. Do you really need to reinvent the wheel here? Yes, for the people that will create new models or new technology, but for the most part, people just want to assemble blocks together. So I think we're moving into a world. It's not programming; it's flowgramming. I think it's like people assembling
Yeah.
these key
I like that.
things together with N8N. That's, I think, has done amazing. And I think the same is we're building the same for marketing with the brief, like people assembling things and saying, "Yeah, I want these things to look like that, and I want you to create variations." And then, more time for drinking a coffee with your friends or building Legos with your kids.
Yeah. Flowgramming. We're going to make that the term in 2026. But just the last thing here, this reminds me like what you're just talking about. Andrew Ng, super famous in the AI world, one of the godfathers of AI in a sense of today's modern terms. But he said this quote, he said, working with generative AI in the coding process makes coding more enjoyable. That was a really unique word, enjoyable. And he just says he'll never go back. And I think there's translations to that for marketers as well, because you get to focus more on the creative and less of the syntax
Totally.
in a sense. But you as a developer, are you hands-on keyboard still with cursor and in the brief, or you allow the developers on the team to
So
do
it's
it?
you're talking about this because I posted something on LinkedIn recently where I had this breakthrough aha moment or milestone moment where I've been a PM for now almost 15 years, and I never had shipped a feature myself.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have the keys and I didn't have the understanding of the code base and all that. This year, I shipped a few features. There's a few features I showed you here that I coded. And I was like, whoa. And then the engineers were like, "That's cool." And I was like, "You cool with that?" And they were like, "Yeah, I reviewed it. I fixed this and that, but that's cool." And what I realized is that they're really happy to have me contribute to things so that they can focus on other things. Yes, I'm using Cursor and I enjoy focusing more on the creativity of the feature itself rather than understanding the code base for 3 hours. Now, there
Yeah.
are limits to vibe coding. And I do think ultimately I use Cursor to generate snippets that I integrate because I need to understand what code is being generated, because I need to be able to maintain things. And I'm sure it's something that many companies are seeing. Okay, you're checking in 300 like files here. Do you understand what all that stuff does? And I'm sure a lot of people no. So I think there's going to be a recalibration in companies, the process. But yeah, I'm able to ship features. And for me, I wrote even books in programming. I do enjoy the computer science part, but like my son is learning, I teach him how to code and he needs to understand the principles. But yes, it definitely makes coding much more fun because I think the core of programming, you don't really need to, you need to understand how the technology works, but do you need to necessarily need to know an entire language? I don't think so.
It was yesterday. I built this thing with 3JS and using my camera to where I could move my hands and it would adjust these particles. It was some viral thing, so I recreated. It's just like mind blowing. I can even do that nowadays.
Yes,
but
yeah.
Thibault, thank you so much for talking some AI. Where can people find The Brief? It's an awesome product. Like, what's the best way to go out and try it?
Thebrief.ai. Check it out. There's a trial. And if you love, you can even subscribe. And there's free credits with the trial. So it's thebrief.ai. I hope your listeners in the chat and then they can check it out to show their team. We're moving fast and shipping new features every week. So would love to have your audience check it out.
Awesome. Thank you, Thibault.
Of course. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Talking AI podcast. If you enjoyed the show, give us a follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget to leave us a review. We love those. For more info on Talking AI, visit talkingaipodcast.com. The single biggest mistake we see companies make with AI is they don't properly train their teams. We see it all the time. Companies roll out AI tools and expect people to just figure it out. But using AI effectively requires a totally different mindset and skill set. And that's exactly why we built training for every level of your org, from AI training for teams and executives to training engineering teams on our generative-driven development methodology. Or if you've already identified your AI use cases and want to just prioritize where to start, we offer an AI roadmap and ROI workshop to help you build a clear plan. It's all about going from we should use AI to actually driving real value with it. Head over to hatchworks.com to learn more.